song of horrors, the Rains of Castamere. There is only one song in Westeros that can still a hall of hundreds, not with beauty, but with terror. The Rains of Castamere, a song so heavy with memory that its first note is a warning. But what kind of power can turn music into obedience? What kind of man needs a melody to rule the living and haunt the dead? The rain fell on Castamere for 7 days. When it stopped, there was no Castamere left. No voices, no banners, only the silence of stone. That silence became song, and that song became legend. The Rains of Castamere is not simply a ballad of victory, it is Tywin Lannister's monument to obliteration. Every verse is a tomb, every chord a declaration. Defy me, and your name will be unmade. It is the sound of one house erasing another, and then teaching the world to sing about it. When the minstrels play it at a feast, the laughter dies a little. The melody curls through the air like smoke from a burning keep, beautiful but suffocating. And when the song returns, years later, at the Red Wedding, it is not a performance, it is prophecy fulfilled. In this deconstruction, we descend into that song, into its symbols of rain and lion, its myth of power, and the silence it leaves behind. Because the Rains of Castamere isn't just a tune, it's what happens when history learns to hum its own warning. The song as spectre. Every house in Westeros has its words, but only one has a song that does its speaking for them. When the Rains of Castamere plays, it is not merely a tune drifting through the hall. It is Tywin Lannister entering the room, unseen and undeniable. His will made melody. The song is his ghost, walking long before his death. To hear it is to feel the invisible presence of power, not shouted, not demanded, but implied. That is Tywin's genius, to make terror elegant. The Lannisters do not need to raise their voices. They let the world sing of their cruelty for them. The rains weep o'er his hall, and not a soul to hear. The lyric is both epitaph and curse. It tells the listener, this is what happens to those who forget who truly rules the realm. The melody doesn't celebrate victory, it haunts it. Every repetition of the refrain is an echo through the ruins of Castamere, an empty mine where gold once glittered and pride once spoke too loudly. Tywin doesn't just destroy his enemies, he erases their context. The Rains are not remembered as rebels or victims, they are remembered as the chorus to his legend. The song embalms them in his narrative forever. And so the melody becomes something more than remembrance. It becomes a presence that stalks the powerful, a reminder that every dynasty risks becoming the next verse. When Joffrey orders it played at his wedding, the room chills. When the Freys use it at theirs, the world bleeds. In each case, the music arrives before the violence, a herald, a phantom whispering, you already know how this ends. The Rains of Castamere is not just sung about death. It is death, moving through time, changing halls, changing hands, but always humming the same cold truth. No one defies the lion and lives to tell their own song. The lion and the rain. And who are you, the proud lord said, that I must bow so low? It begins as a question, arrogant, regal, and doomed. A lion and a storm, pride and erasure. The title, The Rains of Castamere, is more than poetic. It's a paradox. Rain is meant to cleanse, to renew, yet here it falls upon ruin. It does not baptize the dead, it washes away their names. The rain becomes an accomplice to Tywin's vengeance, nature itself aiding in the obliteration of memory. In contrast stands the lion, the emblem of House Lannister, radiant, golden, divine. The lion is the king of the savannah, but in Westeros it is the symbol of civilization's predation, wealth, arrogance, dominion. Tywin makes the lion his theology. To him, the sigil is not decoration, but justification, the proof that hierarchy is natural, that the strong are ordained to devour. When the lion roars, the rain answers. The storm does not resist the beast, it sanctifies his conquest. The rains weep o'er his hall, not their hall, not the gods, but his. The weather itself mourns Tywin's victims, yet that mourning becomes part of his myth. The tears of the sky become applause for the destroyer. It's in this duality that the song's genius lies. The imagery of grief becomes the architecture of glory. The lion and the rain are inseparable, predator and consequence, legacy and lament. And beneath the poetry is a deeper cosmology. In Westeros, nature does not oppose power, it bends to it. The elements echo the conqueror's will. Tywin's destruction becomes creation, his cruelty, a kind of weather pattern. The song's imagery teaches a lesson that echoes far beyond the Westerlands. In the cycle of power, even tragedy serves the victor. The lion roars, and the world calls it thunder. Power's memory, Tywin's monument. Tywin Lannister never built a statue. He built fear. The Rains of Castamere is his monument, not carved in marble, but etched into collective memory. It does not stand in a courtyard. It lingers in the bloodstream of Westeros. To Tywin, that is the only architecture that matters. Every tyrant knows that empires rot, stone crumbles, gold tarnishes, but memory endures. And so Tywin shapes his reign not around love or faith, but around inevitability. The lion does not concern himself with the opinion of the sheep, he tells his children, but what he truly means is that the lion must make the sheep remember him forever. The destruction of House Rain is not about rebellion, it is a performance of consequence. Tywin stages annihilation as spectacle, a lesson written in screams and soot. The mines of Castemere become an echo chamber for his philosophy. Submit or be erased so completely that the gods forget you existed. In that silence, he finds eternity. The rain's extinction gives birth to his myth. The song ensures that their absence keeps speaking his name. This is the twisted paradox of power's memory. It requires victims to sustain itself. Every verse of the Rains of Castamere feeds Tywin's immortality. Even in death, he achieves what most kings never do: continuity. His legend becomes language. His cruelty becomes ritual. When Tyrion kills him, Tywin's body dies, but the ghost remains, alive in every hall where the song is played, in every nervous glance when gold glimmers too brightly. It is no coincidence that Tywin never smiles when the tune is performed. It is not joy he feels, but satisfaction, the cold pleasure of control perfected. He does not hear music, he hears obedience. The Rains of Castamere, then, is less a song than a spell, a self-sustaining myth that renews Tywin each time it's sung. It turns one act of vengeance into a lineage of dread, and that is the secret of his power, not merely to destroy, but to make destruction immortal. The song ensures that even in the quiet centuries to come, the world will still whisper, "And who are you?" the proud lord said. Music as propaganda. There are many ways to control a realm. Gold buys loyalty, swords enforce it, but the most enduring form of power is story, and story, when set to music, becomes unkillable. The Rains of Castamere is not merely a song of victory, it is the Lannister creed disguised as melody. In the world of Westeros, where literacy is scarce and rumour reigns, a song travels farther than any raven. It seeps into taverns, into keeps, into the breath of children who do not even know its meaning. It becomes culture, and therefore truth. Tywin understands this instinctively. His rule does not need constant force, it needs constant presence. The song ensures that presence. Every bard who plays it is unknowingly a herald of House Lannister. Every note reinforces a hierarchy. The lion above, the rain below. That is the genius of propaganda. It makes obedience feel like tradition. No one remembers who ordered the rains slaughtered. They remember the melody. They hum it while they work. They fear it without knowing why. In time, the violence is forgotten. Only the reverence remains. And so, music becomes politics disguised as poetry. The power of the song is not that people believe in Tywin, it's that they remember him involuntarily. The refrain plays, and a hall falls silent, as if the ghosts themselves demand respect. The most terrifying empires are not those that build monuments, but those that build myths. The Rains of Castamere achieves what armies cannot. It makes surrender emotional. It teaches the listener that defiance is not just dangerous, it is impossible. Through repetition, it becomes a kind of liturgy, the lion's prayer, the hymn of submission. And like all hymns, its holiness lies not in its beauty, but in its inevitability. By the time the song plays at the Red Wedding, no one has to explain its meaning. The music itself has become the knife. When the song becomes flesh, it begins softly, strings, a familiar melody. The guests smile, awkward, uncertain. The air shifts, but no one moves. They recognize the song, but they tell themselves it's just music. Then the doors close. In that instant, the Rains of Castamere ceases to be art. It becomes execution. The Red Wedding is not merely vengeance, it is a ritual, a reenactment of the annihilation of Castemere, performed with new victims, new blood. Walder Frey is only the instrument. The conductor, the ghost behind the music, is still Tywin Lannister. Even miles away, his philosophy plays through the strings. When the musicians begin, they are not playing a song of the past, they are summoning it. Every note resurrects the memory of House Rain's doom, a curse made cyclical. The melody carries centuries of dread, and in that dread the slaughter unfolds like prophecy. For the Starks, the song's meaning is almost biblical. They hear rain, but it's their own blood falling. They hear lions, but it's wolves dying in their dens. The moment the melody enters the hall, fate is sealed. The Lannisters have rewritten destiny as performance. It is Tywin's genius, and his sin, to turn memory into weaponry. He doesn't just defeat enemies, he makes them part of his myth. Every time the Rains of Castamere plays before a killing, the world remembers not the victims, but the victor. The Lannister legacy feeds on repetition. And yet, in that repetition lies a curse, because by transforming violence into ritual, Tywin ensures that violence will never end. The song becomes a contagion, a tradition of terror, spreading from one generation to the next. When the last note fades, silence falls again, the same silence that once hung over Castemere. History repeats, not because men forget, but because they remember too well. The Red Wedding is proof that the Rains of Castamere is not a warning song. It is an invocation. It calls upon the old ghosts, and they always answer. The silence after the song. When the final note dies, something far heavier takes its place. Silence. In the world of Game of Thrones, silence is never empty. It is the sound of consequences settling, the echo of everything that can't be undone. After the Red Wedding, the silence that follows the Rains of Castamere is the truest expression of Tywin's rule. It is what absolute power sounds like. Not thunder, not applause, but nothing. The silence says, the lion has feasted, the rain has fallen, the world will move on. But this stillness is not peace. It is the kind of quiet that lingers after trauma, when the air still remembers the scream. For those who survive, the song becomes a phantom, half memory, half nightmare. They can never hear it again without tasting iron. This is the cost of Tywin's monument. The melody remains, but so does the void it leaves behind. The Rains of Castamere ends not with triumph, but with absence, an empire sustained by fear and haunted by its own perfection. Every silence after the song is an unmarked grave, the eternal refrain. In the end, the Rains of Castamere is not just Tywin's song, it is Westeros itself, a world that teaches its children to sing of power, to turn blood into melody and melody into memory. Every empire writes its anthem, every tyrant becomes a tune, and every time the song is sung, the rain falls again. It is the lullaby of obedience, the hymn of ruin, the sound of history humming to itself. And when the last note fades, when the halls grow still once more, only one truth remains. The lion still roars, even in silence.